So what do you do in a situation like this, to where you have no power, no anything happening? There's a few things that you can try. The first thing that I would usually do, try this in both directions. If it doesn't work still, you're going to want to open it up and take out the motherboard, because it could be the battery shorting it out. I mean, you might as well try unplugging the battery and then plugging in the charger, see what happens, but more than likely that's not going to help. It's going to be the slim port chip that controls that USB-C port. Or if you look in the end of the USB-C port and it looks all mangled and janky or dirty, then it's going to be a charge port. Another thing you could try before taking it apart would be to clean the charge port. And if that fixes it, fantastic. If not, well, like I said, you're going to have to go after that slim port chip. Now this one, I know it will charge if I flip it upside down. See, it's taking power now, full 15 volts. So I'm going to take a look at the charge port, see what's going on, and if that's not it, then I'm going to go after that slim port chip, because even if it only works on one side, it's going to be that slim port chip, if it's not the USB-C port. So looking at it closer, the port looked damaged, it looked a little cockeyed off to the side, so I just went on ahead and replaced it, just in case. If not, here's a slim port that I would have replaced, but as you see, it takes 15 volts. The light is now flashing. That is the problem solved. Okay, so let's say that it was never the charge port to begin with. Let's say that it was only taking 4 volts. Let's say that it's only taking 4 volts. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug it in, and it's only taking 4 volts. What you're going to do is you're going to unplug your battery. By doing that and then plugging back in your charger, if it takes 15 volts, then you know it's good. If you don't unplug your battery first and then plug in your charger, if you have your charger plugged in, you just unplug the battery, it's going to stay at 4 volts. So then what you do after that is, if you don't have the money or you don't want to wait or try to order a battery, you can take and plug your battery back in while your charger's taking the 15 volts through it. And it will force the Chromebook to think that your battery is actually 15 volts when it's not. It's probably completely dead. You can check it with a multimeter. But what it'll do is, this will charge 100%, up to 100%, I mean, at 15 volts, 12 volts, somewhere around there. It'll only last you a day or two. If you do that, do not let it drop below 10 to 20%. If you do, you're gonna have to do this process all over again. But it'll get you by for a few days. If you're doing it for a client or for a school or something, I just would replace the battery, because it's going to be back in a few days anyways. Step 1 is to replicate. Drive turn on if it doesn't turn on. Plug in your charger. I recommend getting one of these USB-C ones that, well, this is an adapter piece in between the two. It tells you how many voltage it is taking, how many amperages is it taking, and how many milliamps it is storing inside of it. Right now you see it's 4.6, and it needs about 15 in order to turn on. There are a few things that you can do to fix this and to get it to work. Sometimes if you just leave this for a couple minutes, it'll go to 15 volts, it'll turn on. Other times you'll need to take and open it up, unplug the battery, and if it turns on from there, you know it's bad battery. If it doesn't turn on, then you know it's either a different problem, i.e. something on the board, or if you're getting 15 volts here, it's going to be a problem with the screen, whether it's the LCD itself, or the cable to the LCD, or the connector itself. If this doesn't go up to 15 volts, and you unplug the battery, and see right there, just barely changed to 15 volts. Now it's going to start actually charging. Now you see it turned on. So, I'm assuming that the student or the teacher didn't give it long enough to charge. Maybe they did, maybe the battery's just gone bad. However, if this doesn't go to 15 volts, and say you leave it plugged in for 10 minutes, doesn't go to 15 volts, you're going to look to the slim port chip on the motherboard, and you'll want to replace it and the other MOSFETs that control it, depending on which model of Chromebook you have. It will, either be the HPs with the slim port and the Parade chips, or the Acers and the Dells and things like that have just the slim ports. You can always inject voltage into the positive side of the battery. Well, not of the battery, but where it connects. So this is a Dell. There's your slim port chip. It has a few MOSFETs missing off of it. I needed those, so I took them off. However, as you can see here, that solder blob on that right pin of that connector has solder, extra solder. I put that there because what I do is I take it and I solder on a wire to it, and I clamp it on to my bench power supply, and I supply it with 10 volt or 12 volts. 2 amps, just like the charger would give it. And if I get a flashing light out of the LED, I know that it more than likely has a chance of living, needs something to do with the swim port, or the charge port needs to be replaced. If it won't even display that, or depending on how much voltage and amperage it's taking, which you can see on the display of that, I take a thermal image camera and I aim at this and I try to find out if there's a short somewhere. I see if there's any heat. If there's no heat, or if it's heat in a typical spot, or things like that, or if the CPU is getting hot, I go through with multimeter and I start checking all the capacitors, all the inductors, everything, to see if there's shorts where there shouldn't be shorts, or to see if there's a capacitor blown open. And that's how you quick and dirty check really quick to see if it'll turn on. So as you see here, it has almost 15 volts going into it. This is an ASUS. It is a highly common problem with these ASUSes for these screens to go out. Sometimes it's the LCD cables. Also the HP11G8EEs also have this very common problem of the screens going out, or the cable coming unplugged from the motherboard, or the cable itself going out. But if you shine a bright flashlight in, you can see there's no backlight. So I'm gonna put a new cable on this, and if that doesn't fix the problem, then I know that the problem is on the board. But more than likely, it's gonna be the cable here, and I'll probably replace the screen with it.